Welcome back everyone to another Age of Sigmar video. This time we're talking about a new issue of White Dwarf where they have made up some rules for an army of renown that allows you to mix Tzeentch forces with a bunch of Cities of Sigmar units, and there are custom war scrolls, there are heroic traits, artifacts, and just in general battle traits that you can use. It's pretty freaking cool, so we're going to check that out. But in general, this is a really great White Dwarf, one of the better ones of recent memory, with some cool stuff in it. Lots of Thousand Suns stuff for 40k if you're into that, but also there's just a lot of information about Chaos and Tzeentch in general. There's a Worlds of Warhammer column that is about the Chaos gods and how they show up in 40k, AOS, Blood Bowl, the Old World, etc. And it even talks a little bit about Hashut, who has been revealed, well, not revealed, but you know, is coming into prominence with the Chaos Dwarves, or Zardron, coming into Age of Sigmar. There's also a really beautiful setup at the back here where we have information on the Grand Cathay models, many of which are really amazing proxies for the Cities of Sigmar, but they're just amazing models on their own right. And so if you want information about them, there's a lot of details here, including some really cool illustrations and maps and centerfolds like this one. With that intro out of the way, let's talk about the Pyrofane cult, which seriously have some really cool rules. So the idea here is that there are these Tzeentchian cults in all sorts of major cities, or even just little settlements of the Cities of Sigmar and just in the forces of order in general. And when these cults take over a settlement or a city, or at least try to, they reveal themselves. And you see that there's the Carrick acolytes. Those are the regular people that maybe they shed their normal selves to suddenly have all of their Tzeentch given powers, maybe even mutations, whatever it is. But there are actually, you know, trained soldiers that will have been converted as well. And in one of the Callus and Toll novels that we have, that actually happens, where several companies of Free Guild soldiers completely turn traitor and start to fight against their comrades. And this is kind of what we're seeing here. So when this happens, they try to set off huge pyres of flame, like warp flame, that will convert people and just totally make the city their own. And that's going to be represented in the rules here. So the idea here is that this is an army of renown. When you take this army, you don't get to take your normal Tzeentch rules. Instead, you take the ones that are in the book. You can take any non-war flock arcanite, so that's your cultists. You can take a Gaunt Summoner or a Gaunt Summoner on a disc of Tzeentch, but just the one, and then you can't have any regiments of Renown. So let's go through some of the rules here, and then we'll take a look at the custom war scrolls, because spoiler here, you actually get to take some Cities of Sigmar units as well, and they're all point costed and everything in here. So the first thing is the Word Flame Barrage. So whenever you pick a target for a shooting attack made by a friendly unit with weapons that have the Word Flame weapon ability, you can also pick a terrain feature that are visible and within range of the attacking model to be the targets. Non-faction terrain are considered to have a save characteristic of 5+ and infinite help for the purposes of this ability. So basically, if you allocate any damage points to the terrain feature by the attacks, after the shoot ability has been resolved, you roll a dice, and if the roll is less than or equal to the number of damage points allocated to that terrain feature, then it has the Wild Pyre keyword. Basically, you can set terrain on fire. So if you do lots of damage to a terrain, then it's going to be really easy to roll equal to or less than that on your roll. But if you don't do very much damage, then it's going to be difficult to get this Wild Pyre effect to happen. When something has wild power, there's going to be a whole bunch of other effects that take place. But first, let's take a look at a really cool deep strike rule. So basically, you can have any of your friendly wizards use this ability during the deployment phase. You set that up in reserve among the cultists. It has now been deployed. And whenever a unit that is hidden among the cultists lasts until round 4, it actually does not get destroyed, even though that's one of the rules of the game. And so you can pick in any hero phase, in your opponent's hero phase or in your hero phase, you can pick one of your wizards that's hidden among the cultists to use this ability. and then you pick one of your own friendly infantry units with 3 or more models to be the target. That wizard is set up in the combat range of the target, and it can be set up in combat. So if you have a bunch of like steel helms in combat, you can set up a wizard with them, which is, you know, kind of a risky thing to do. But if it's your opponent's hero phase, then you can use the magical intervention command and no command points are spent to do so. So very, very cool to sneak in some wizards. And this is like a pretty flavorful army, right? You'd play this in a kind of like a narrative game, and for somebody to suddenly reveal themselves to be a Tzeentchian wizard is a very cool thing. Now, once per turn, at the end of any turn, you can pick an objective that is contested by any friendly Carrick Acolyte units to be the target. That target has the Wild Pyre keyword for the rest of the battle. And so you can set things on fire by shooting at them, and you can set them on fire by contesting them with Carrick Acolytes. By the way, both instances of setting an objective on fire or a terrain on fire is going to be for the rest of the battle. That's it. Okay, so what does setting something on fire actually do? Well, that's the once per battle round army at the start of the battle round, Immolation of the Realms. So you declare this ability at the start of the battle round if there are wild pyres on the battlefield, and you do the effect that results on like how many you've actually set on fire. So if you set 1 to 2 things on fire, you do 1 mortal damage to every single unit within 3 inches of any of the fires, and then you also add 2 inches of movement to any friendly units that take the damage for the rest of the battle round. If you have 3 to 4 things on fire, then you do D3 damage to anybody friendly, opposing, anyone that's near fire, and then you add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly units that were allocated damage. Then if you have 5 to 6, you do D3 damage to everybody within 6 inches of the fire, so it's a bigger range now, and you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the melee weapons used by friendly units that were allocated damage for the rest of the battle round. And then if you get to 7 and 8, it's inflict D3 only within, or sorry, just within 6 inches of any of the fires, and anyone that takes damage, friendly units that take damage, they get +1 to wound, +2 to move, and they get +1 to their attacks characteristics. So they get all of the buffs from the previous round here. And then finally, if you set 9+ things on fire, then you do D3 +3 mortal damage to each unit within 6 inches of any wild pyres, and then you pick a non-faction terrain feature within that has the wild pyre keyword, and you reduce it to ash. You have to remove all models that are on that terrain feature and set them up again within 3 inches of it. And if they cannot be done, then they are destroyed. So basically you start burning things down once you've set 9 things on fire. So this is kind of a cool faction ability where the further you get into the game, and it's going to be pretty easy to set things on fire, I think, especially because it's just bonus shots, the more and more, potent your models are going to become. The tricky part of this is that your models are all going to be pretty weak. So you'll lose models whenever you do this, whenever they take damage, but they will become more powerful. So moving on, we have a heroic trait that basically allows one of your heroes to benefit from the buffs of the Immolation of the Realms, but not take the actual damage from it. And then we also have an artifact of power that you can use if you are within 3 inches of a wild pyre terrain feature. You can pick another Pyrofane unit wholly within 12 of this unit to be the target. You get to remove it from the battlefield, and it warps back out of another wild pyre terrain. So this gives you some flexibility to, if you're playing with battle tactics in this type of game, you can actually score those maybe more easily or go onto an objective. And if you're playing more of a narrative game, then this is just really cool for people to disappear into the fire and then come back out again somewhere else. Okay, we also have a custom spell lore, the lore of the Weird Flame. So you have Flaming Weapon, which is going to be reminiscent of 3rd edition Cities of Sigmar, but it's not going to be crit mortals. Instead, it's going to be a 4 to cast, so quite easy. You just need to get a 4 on the 2d6. You're going to use a Pyrofane wizard to cast this on a friendly hero that's wholly within 12, and they are going to get +1 damage for their melee weapons until the start of your next turn. This would be really nice if you could put it onto Steel Helms and the Carrick Acolytes. I actually really wish you could. I feel like that would push this to be a little bit more, you know, winnable as a list. But we also have the Burning Anguish, which goes off on a 7. You pick a friendly Pyrofane wizard to cast it. You pick a visible enemy within 18. And then if they had any damage points allocated to it this battle round by Immolation of the Realms, then you can basically turn off their commands for the rest of the battle. Battle round. Okay, that's just okay, whatever. Then we have Summon Cult Leader. So pick a Pyrofane wizard to cast this, friendly, and then pick a friendly wizard that has been destroyed and make a casting roll of 2d6. This one is hard to get because it goes off on an 8, but when you do it, you get to set up a replacement unit identical to the target hidden in the, among the cultists. So this is going to come back into play where any hero phase at all, you can bring back one of these wizards within any infantry. And so this is nice. So if you are bringing your wizards out and they're right by combat situations, because you know your infantry are going to be in combat, then you can resurrect them after they die, which they most certainly will. We also have a manifestation lore. You can summon the Burning Sigil of Tzeentch for a 7 and play that out onto the field. So if we actually look at the battle profile here, we can see there's the Gaunt Summoner on disc, on foot. There's the Pyrofane Fusel Major on Ogre Warhulk, which they put at 180. So this is like pre-point decreases, and I guess these magazines, I believe, are written like 4 months in advance, and so they wouldn't have had the recent point decreases for Cities of Sigmar. So it's kind of a steep cost. But you can also have the Curseling, Magister on Disc of Tzeentch, and an Ogroid Thaumaturge. We also have the Pyrofane Fusiliers at 120 points, the Pyrofane Steel Helms at 100 points, the Carrick Acolytes at 90, and the Jade Obelisk at 100, and then the Pyrofane Great Cannon at 130. So you can have one of your great cannons from Cities of Sigmar, but it's not going to be 100 points like it is now, and they will cost 130 each. However, when we look at the war scrolls for these Cities of Sigmar abilities, they all have weird flames. So the cannon has it, the Fusiliers have it, the Fusel Major has it, and the Steel Helms. So by the way, everybody here has their same usual profiles, like still 5-inch moves, 4-up saves for the Fusiliers, for the Steel Helms. The combat profiles are still the same: the long Fusel, the Warhulk Mace, the fortified positions, Black Powder Squire. If you're used to Cities of Sigmar, your war scrolls have not changed. All they've done is added on the Weird Flame to all of the ranged weapons, and then they made one other change, which is for the Pyromaniacs, for the Steel Helms. When they are wholly within a wildfire of 6 inches, of a wildfire, they get a 5-up ward, which is really good. Like for your Steel Helms, if you bring 20 or 10 or whatever it is, like it's going to be really good. And then the other thing is that like the light up targets isn't specifically, Cities of Sigmar units. It's actually going to be for Pyrofane, which means it works in all of your, it goes +1 to hit for attacks made by friendly Pyrofane units that target that unit that you shot at for the rest of the turn. And so that's it for the war scrolls. They're the same as usual. The keywords, they've got Arcanite now, they've got Pyrofane, they've got Disciples of Tzeentch and Chaos instead of Order and Cities of Sigmar. So this is a Tzeentch army, of course. There we go. You can, if you want to take a screenshot or something, this is something that you can try out. Now, I don't have any Tzeentch units, but maybe I could proxy them with some of my Cities of Sigmar units. So I could try this out for fun, because it's honestly like a really cool idea for an army. I love the way that it stacks. And when you think about, like, you, for example, you've got your Great Cannon and your Fusel Major, and they're shooting at 24 inches, then it's pretty easy for them to shoot at a lot of different terrain. And when you look at the Weird Flame Barrage, it says that whenever you make a shooting attack with anybody with a Weird Flame, you can also pick terrain features, plural, that are visible to them and within range of the attacking model to be targets. So it means that you can split attacks if you want to maybe set some things on fire early in the game. Maybe you sent, the first round of shooting, your opponent deployed outside of range, and so you can just shoot up a bunch of the different terrain, set it all up on fire, and then your Immolation of the Realms is going to be set up right away. As soon as your opponent starts crossing, many different features will be on fire and they will start to take damage. And as long as you're close by, you will be buffing yourself up as well, which is super exciting. So that's going to be it for this video. This wasn't one I was planning on making originally, and then I read through this magazine and I'm like, holy crap, I want to share this because this is awesome. If I do play a game with it, I will do a battle report for it, but I have to find someone that wants to do a narrative game with me and also just make sure I can proxy everything that I want to proxy. But let me know what you think about the army, if you think it's viable. It doesn't actually say Legends anywhere, but obviously like it's a weird army of Renown. I don't know how these, normally the White Dwarf stuff does specify that it's a Legends army or something. I know there was an Ossiarch Bone Reapers one recently that was Legends, but I'm assuming this one is as well. Not that it would be competitive enough to be a, tournament army anyway, but it looks really fun. And so let me know what you think about that. And if you'd like to see other cool information from White Dwarfs in the future. Otherwise, I'll see you all soon enough in another video.